Imagine this. You're sitting in a cozy cafe with a close friend. It's one of those catch-up conversations. Nothing too heavy, just swapping stories, laughing about the small stuff. But then, as you bring up something personal, something that really matters, the atmosphere changes. Suddenly, your friend shifts in their seat, avoids your eyes, and forces a laugh. They give you a vague, offhand comment like, "Oh, you're overthinking it." In that moment, you feel it, a slight but undeniable shift. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. Their body language stiffens, their words become lighter, more evasive, and you can't quite put your finger on it, but something feels off. You try to shake it off, telling yourself it's nothing. But as the conversation goes on, you realize you're doing more detective work than listening. Weeks later, you discover the truth. They weren't just hiding something. They were lying to your face the entire time. I know this feeling all too well. Years ago, I had a friend who always seemed so trustworthy. We shared everything, or so I thought. But when things got real, when I asked the tough questions, I started noticing little signs that didn't quite fit. They'd laugh at inappropriate moments, give vague answers when I asked for details, or completely avoid eye contact when I confronted them about something important. At first, I brushed it off, thinking I was just being paranoid. But the more I paid attention, the clearer it became. These weren't coincidences. They were red flags, tiny cracks in the facade of truth. And those cracks, they eventually shattered the entire relationship. That experience taught me something critical. People rarely outright lie in obvious ways. More often, their dishonesty sneaks into the small moments, the nervous laughter, the distant body language, the vague stories. It's those subtle, hidden signs that speak louder than words, if only we know how to see them. We've all been there, whether with a friend, a partner, a colleague, where our gut tells us something isn't right. But here's the thing, most of us ignore it. We push away that quiet voice in our head that says, "Wait, why aren't they looking me in the eye?" Or, "Why do they keep changing the subject?" We convince ourselves that we're just imagining things. But the truth? It's sitting right there, disguised in the small, everyday interactions. And if you can learn to spot these signs, you'll start noticing when someone's not telling the truth before it's too late. So, how do you know when someone is lying? How do you see through the mask they're wearing? In this guide, we're diving into 7 hidden signs that someone isn't being honest with you. These aren't the obvious, over-the-top lies you see in movies. These are the subtle cues, the body language, the tone shifts, the tiny inconsistencies that reveal the truth hiding beneath the surface. Once you know these signs, you'll never look at conversations the same way again. 1. They start creating distance, emotionally, mentally, and physically. When people start hiding the truth, one of the first things they do is distance themselves from you, from the situation, and from anything that might force them to open up. It's not always obvious at first, but if you pay attention, you'll notice it. Emotionally, they start pulling back. They used to share everything with you, but now you're getting radio silence. It's like they've put up this invisible wall between you two, and you just can't get through. No more deep talks, no more opening up about how they feel. It's like they've shut down. Mentally, they check out of conversations. They might be sitting there nodding along, but you can tell their mind is somewhere else. You ask them a question, and their answers are vague, distant, almost like they're just trying to get through the conversation without saying anything real. And then there's the physical distance. They're still in the room, but they've got their body angled away from you, arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. The closeness you used to feel is gone, and it's replaced by this weird sense of discomfort. The next time you notice this kind of distance creeping in, don't ignore it. It's a sign something deeper is going on. Ask yourself, what are they trying to avoid and why? 2. Laughing off serious topics. This one's a classic. You're trying to have a serious conversation, and instead of engaging, they just laugh it off. You bring up something important. Maybe you're feeling hurt, or there's an issue you need to address, and they hit you with that awkward chuckle and say, "Come on, don't take it so seriously." Here's the deal. Humor is great for breaking the ice, but when someone laughs off serious topics over and over, they're using it as a defense mechanism. It's their way of dodging the real conversation, and it's a huge red flag. Let me tell you a story. I was in a relationship where every time I tried to bring up something serious, like how disconnected I felt, it was always met with a joke or a laugh. "You're overthinking it," they'd say with a smile. And sure, it felt like they were being light-hearted, but over time, I realized that humor was their way of dodging accountability. When someone laughs off your concerns, it's not about keeping things light. It's about avoiding the truth. They don't want to go there because they know it'll expose something they're trying to hide. So, don't be afraid to push back. Ask, "Why is this funny to you?" And watch how quickly the smile fades. Third, vagueness, when pressed for specifics. Ever notice how some people suddenly turn into poets when you ask them a direct question? You're looking for a clear answer, but all you get is a bunch of vague, flowery nonsense that doesn't actually say anything. Here's the thing. If someone's being vague when you ask for specifics, they're dodging the truth. They don't want to give you a straight answer because that would mean revealing what they're really up to. So instead, they dance around the question, hoping you'll get bored and drop it. Let me give you an example. I once had a co-worker who would always brag about these big deals they were supposedly working on. But whenever anyone asked for details, like the name of the company or how close they were to closing the deal, it was always the same vague response. "Oh, we're in the early stages. I can't say too much right now, but it's huge." Weeks went by, and we kept hearing the same thing. Eventually, we found out there was no deal at all. It was all talk. When someone keeps dodging your questions with vague answers, it's because they don't want to be caught. Don't let them off the hook. 4. Over-explaining or giving too many details. If you ask someone a simple question and they give you a novel-length answer, be suspicious. People who are telling the truth don't feel the need to over-explain. But people who are hiding something, they think the more details they give, the more believable their story will seem. Let's say you ask someone, "What were you up to last night?" And instead of a straightforward answer, they give you a play-by-play of their entire evening. "Well, first I stopped to get coffee, then I hit traffic, then I had dinner with a friend, and then, oh, did I tell you about that thing that happened at work?" When someone is piling on the details like that, it's because they're trying to distract you. They hope that by overwhelming you with information, you'll lose track of the actual question. But here's the truth. Honest people don't need to fill in every little detail. They give you what you need to know, and that's it. 5. Avoiding eye contact body language says more than words ever could, and avoiding eye contact is one of the clearest signs someone is hiding the truth. Eyes are a window into someone's mind. When someone is being genuine, they'll look you in the eye because they have nothing to hide. But if they're lying, their eyes will tell you before their words do. Picture this. You're asking someone a direct question and they can't meet your gaze. They're looking at their phone, the floor, the ceiling, anywhere but at you. That's because eye contact makes people feel exposed. When someone is lying, they instinctively avoid it because they're afraid you'll see the truth. Now, of course, some people are naturally shy or have a hard time with eye contact, even when they're telling the truth. But if someone who's normally comfortable with you suddenly starts avoiding your gaze, it's time to start asking why. 6. Contradicting themselves. Inconsistent stories are a dead giveaway. When someone is hiding the truth, it's hard to keep track of all the lies they've told. One day, They tell you one thing, the next, the story changes, and they don't even realize it. For example, they might tell you they spent the weekend working, but later mention going out with friends. Or maybe they give you a detailed explanation of something, and when you bring it up again later, the details don't match. Honest people don't have to worry about keeping their story straight. They're consistent because they're telling the truth. But someone who's lying will eventually trip up. Pay attention to those contradictions. They're a sign that something's not right. 7. Getting defensive. Here's a big one. When someone gets defensive, as soon as you ask them a simple question, it's usually because they feel cornered. You're getting too close to the truth, and they don't like it. Maybe you ask, "Why didn't you tell me about this earlier?" And instead of a calm explanation, they snap back with, "Why do you always have to question me?" Or, "Can't you just trust me?" They're not just dodging the question, they're trying to make you feel guilty for even asking it. People who are telling the truth don't need to get defensive. They're open to having the conversation because they know they've got nothing to hide. But someone who's hiding the truth will try to turn it around on you, making it seem like you're the one who's in the wrong for even asking. Now you're armed with the tools to cut through the surface-level distractions and spot the truth in any conversation. Whether it's a friend who's been acting strange, a partner who avoids tough topics, or even a co-worker who's always a little too vague, these subtle cues can help you see things more clearly. But here's the thing. Recognizing these signs is just the beginning. The real challenge is deciding what to do with that knowledge. Will you confront the person and dig deeper, or will you let it slide, hoping things will fix themselves? The truth is, honesty is the foundation of any strong relationship, whether it's personal or professional. If you can't trust someone, then what's left? And if they can't be real with you, is that a relationship you truly want to invest in? Think back to your own life for a moment. Can you recall a time when you noticed one of these signs but ignored it? How did that situation end up? Or maybe you confronted someone and it led to the truth coming out. Whatever the case, your experiences with dishonesty shape the way you handle it moving forward. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one last thought. Pay attention to your instincts. Often, your gut feeling knows something long before your mind catches up. If something feels off, there's usually a reason. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions, dig deeper, and trust yourself when the signs are there. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever caught someone in a lie using one of these subtle signs? Or maybe you've been on the other side, trying to hide the truth yourself. Let's open up a conversation. Share your story in the comments below. How do you deal with dishonesty when you see the signs? Let's talk about it, and maybe together we can learn how to navigate these tricky situations a little better. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, when it comes to trust, it's the little things that matter most.